Hey there, StarCraft fans! It's Falcon Paladin coming at ya with yet another edition of StarCraft Brood War Remastered! Today, it's going to be a match between HyuK and Fantasy on this map that I don't know what it is, and the name is in Korean in the client. But, if you know, let me know in the comments and I will update the title. I don't think I've ever casting him on this map before. Alright, so bottom left-hand corner is our blue Terran player. His name is Fantasy. And in the top right-hand corner, the yellow Zerg player, HyuK. Should be pretty good here today. Both players pretty darn excellent names you have known and heard of before. This feels like an older map because, once again, your main is inside this really big area. Low ground, right? It's a pit. It's like a ball pit or something, or a conversation area from when they built homes in the 70s with these little pits. But your expansion, your natural base is here. Pretty easy to wall off here if you're a Terran player. I guess down here makes a little bit more sense for your walling positions. And yeah, gonna start that right now. Mr. Fantasy, third base location, pretty good too. One ramp leading up to that. Not too hard to defend if you happen to be a Terran or a Zerg player. And then bases just kind of scattered throughout the rest of the map here. Everything has gas. This middle area, once again, hard to hold, but really nice if you can. If you take this, it generally means you're way ahead. I understand the thinking behind this when they design these maps, but really all that happens is you take this if you happen to be ahead at like the 15-minute mark, because that's all the way you can hold it. It's the only way you can hold it here. So we'll get rid of that. We'll turn the Fog of War back on, because people will complain if I don't. And I have heard from some people who do like Fog of War off, so I don't know. I've heard more complaints if Fog of War is off rather than if it's on, so we're going to roll with that for now. Anyway, did you know there's Falcon Paladin merch? Were you aware of that? If you search Falcon Paladin Shopify, you can find Falcon Paladin merchandise, including, well, I was going to say including mugs and pillows and shirts and hoodies. Depending on what time of year it is for you, well, what season it is for you, a hoodie might be more appealing based on where you are in the world. But anyways, I was going to say, that is a one racks opening here, nothing too crazy at all. From Fantasy, HyuK did go for the hatch first play. He's going to get into extractor here pretty soon. Actually going to go for a pool, not worrying about the gas early on. There it is, about a 14 pool. And the drone is forced to flee, sitting here at like 2 HP. That's kind of how this works, but righto. Also, did you know that there is a way to get extra Brood War content from Falcon? I'm going to post a 5th Brood War cast per week out on patreon.com/FalconPaladin, which, holy cannoli, 5 Brood War casts a week. Are you crazy? Maybe. Maybe I am. You don't know. But yeah, check it out. Patreon.com/FalconPaladin. So, anyway, on to the game here. Macro hatch being tossed at the natural before the natural hatchery is even done. So really wants to go for that early larva style stuff here. Command center on the way. One racks expand from Fantasy. And there's your gas. So now the Terran player getting his gas. He's not going for any kind of an early gas strategy, getting fire bats or trying to get the factory very fast. He recognizes he's pretty safe here, honestly. With this wall and a couple of Marines, and especially with the scouting he's done, he sees there's not much going on by way of aggressive units in HyuK's base. The pool is done. There are some lings on the way, but he saw that gas was late, so no speedlings on the way. And Overlord kind of scouting what's going on over here. Just sees a couple of Marines and a barracks and calls it good. Fantasy is getting an engineering bay, which is good for upgrades and good if you need to throw down some oh crap turrets when you see a spire coming up on the other side of the map here. That is definitely a lair. That second extractor, I feel like it's going to come up any time now. That is a pretty darn quick lair out of our Zerg player. Going to watch this extractor very, very closely. Zergling chasing this SCV. SCV has all of 20 HP. He's in the red, at least according to this little pop-up, whereas he's in the yellow on his health bar. So, bit of a discrepancy there, kind of odd. Speed is on the way from HyuK. I had a game the other day where I just kind of didn't bother getting speed because I was doing other stuff. I wasn't going really ling heavy early on, and I said to get it later, and then I didn't. And then there was a time later in that game, a point later in that game where I was like, I need a bunch of speedlings, go! And I made a ton of speedlings, and they were slow. And I was like, oh, that hurts. Have you ever seen like 30 slowlings just running around helplessly? That was me. It was not a good feeling. Behold, a Hydralisk Den. Behold, an extractor. Behold, the lair is about done here for HyuK. And once the lair is done, what do we do? What do we do with it? Is this a lurker rush? This could just be lurker play. It is. Lurker aspect. All right, man. So 2 base lurker rush here. That is good for missile turrets too. Their detection is really useful in this situation. Also, if you don't have tanks, it can be hard to deal with this just because lurkers tear apart bio like they are made of paper mache. Because relatively, I think they are. I think that makes a lot of sense. Zerglings cruising out across the map to see what they can see, but these Marines are pretty protected. There's not even a bunker here, but Fantasy's like, you know what, it's cool. It's totally cool. You don't need a bunker, you just wall yourself off with these buildings, and you don't have to spend money on a bunker. How's that? In StarCraft 2, you can actually salvage the bunker and get a return on it if you're done with it, which is awesome. But not here, not in the Brood War. Brood War does not care about your economy at all. You build a bunker, you spend full price for it. If you never use it again, tough beans. It helps you for a little bit anyways. Are we going for this? That is not a going for it situation there, yeah, Zergling. So there are some Hydras wandering across the map. They don't have speed because you don't need the speed upgrade if you're turning them into lurkers anyway. Doesn't help the lurkers. But a lot more barracks in production here for Fantasy. We got Hydras still wandering. Just very, very ponderously wandering across the map. I always forget how slow they are when they don't have the speed upgrade because they are slow. And did Fantasy get a scan off? He might have gotten a scan off and seen that Hydralisk den. Yeah, this is not good for Fantasy, you guys. He's going to have Marines. He's going to have a really hard time. Oh, all right. I guess we're making these lurkers all across the map right now. That's really weird. That's really odd you did it this way, HyuK, but all right, man. I will believe in you. Just like this row of lurkers. All right, here we go. Here goes nothing. Lurkers need to be on this high ground or setting up some kind of a siege here. They cannot let Fantasy dictate where this engagement happens because they will surround and kill the lurkers before they burrow. I've seen it. I've seen it before, I reckon. So coming in, this would have been faster. I don't know why the Hydra took that northern path. Seems weird, but here we go. Now a bunker actually in production, and there go the lurkers burrowing in. Now you are all in big trouble. The bunker. See what I'm talking about? You make a bunker, it gets you no purpose at all and goes down instantly. Supply depot's in a lot of trouble here too. One goes down. Supply blocking Fantasy. Another one goes down here too. Further supply blocking Fantasy. The lurkers slowly sieging forward. And again, if all you have are Marines here, I know you have medics. I understand that, but this is really scary stuff. There's the scan. The Lings come in to absorb some damage that the Marines are putting out, allowing the lurkers to actually get the spines up that they want to. Cancel on that bunker. It was under construction here. Wow, Marines and medics are just getting torched right now. Torn to pieces by this lurker attack. I think HyuK intends to win with this. He's not expanding behind it. Fantasy not supply blocked, mostly because he ended up, well, losing a lot of Marines and medics. I think is how that works here. Another scan, but not really being put to good use here by Fantasy. If he can get up here and threaten this command center, he's going to be in a great position. I don't know if he wants to, though. It is 9 mutas coming up back home, though. Where the heck did he put that spire? Are you kidding? Where is it? Oh, it's here in the natural base on the left side. All right, well, I was going to say, why the heck are there so many missile turrets up at the natural base? Well, it's because there are Mutalisks coming, and Fantasy read this game better than I did, which is entirely fair. He's a much better player than I am. Third hatch finally on the way from HyuK. Muta's going to try to fly in and get something done, but 3 turrets with Marine support, with medic support, more than enough. Queen's Nest coming in. Before that third base is done, HyuK wants to go for a Queen's Nest. This is a rush to Defiler Mound. He wants to get Dark Swarm up on these lurkers as fast as Zergly possible. Science Vessel on the way. There's really not much here inside the main base. The Marines would have to respond pretty quickly to handle this. And this is a problem. SCV's getting picked off. Really? No turrets in your main at all, Fantasy? What's going on, man? You read Mutalisk. What part of you thought that maybe the Mutas wouldn't come into your main base? Was there a part? I certainly hope not. Tank set up. And no, the tank can't hit these lurkers. Sort of. Burrow. Burrow in. There it is. Oh, nice scan. Another one goes down. Great target firing. Fantastic job from the Marines under the control of Commander Fantasy here. So far, so good on that one. Third base is done for HyuK. He's getting that gas. He's working on a hive. He's making additional Hydralisks. This is a problem. This is a problem for HyuK. He was fully intending on killing the Terran player with that, but Fantasy held it. It wasn't perfect. He didn't really defend against the Mute attack in his main base, but otherwise, he's been doing pretty good. He kept the lurkers away from his natural base, which is just incredibly important. And now he's moving out into the world, being fully aware that these Mutalisks are a thing and the Lurkers are a thing too. Tank picked off, nicely done. A couple Marines going down for effectively nothing here. The Mutas are not even all that injured. Okay, a couple of them are now. I jinxed them. It's hard to target fire the wounded Mutalisks when they're stacked up like this, which is why you want to stack. Irradiate coming in, 8 more Lurkers coming in from HyuK. 3 basing Zerg versus a 2 basing Terran. Fantasy needs to take a third at some point here. The Muta's overextending a little bit. 4 or 5 of them are severely injured, but whittling down that Marine count even a tiny bit here and there, and keeping Fantasy at home while those Lurkers are under construction and while that hive finishes is incredibly useful too. Yeah, 3 or 4 of these these Mutalisks have gone down. There are only 7 remaining. They're not looking good. Not looking good here for that Mutaball at all, and they don't regenerate their health all that quickly, although they do, and it is for free. It just takes some time. That's the trade-off, right? Sure is. There's your Defiler Mound. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I am talking about here out of HyuK. Going for that Defiler Mound. Rushing towards that Defiler Mound. Lurker picked out of the ground there, providing permanent detection. Our friendly science vessel there. He is always very friendly, isn't he? Orders? He sounds like some kind of a, he's probably a cyborg or an android of some kind. Maybe he's programmed to be friendly, and maybe he shouldn't get credit for that. But anyway, adrenal glands on the way from HyuK. And this is a pretty darn big Marine tank push from the Terran player. Fantasy does not have upgrades for his mech. He's got 1/1 for his Marines. I'm going to assume, yes, Stim 2 here based on the fact that, yep, there's that sound. Here goes nothing. Lurkers coming on in. Lings on top of everything, too. This is problematic. The Lurker spines are causing huge problems for this bio, and the Muta's giving additional damage. And by golly, that was a crushing victory for HyuK. He lost a ton of stuff there, but he's got a handful of Lurkers remaining. 2 kills on that guy, 2 kills, 1 kill on that guy. Our Mutas are still alive to some extent. 6 kills and 2 kills on them, injured as they are. Fantasy still really needs a 3rd base, you guys. I'm really worried about him right now. The Zerg player is taking a 4th base in the bottom right-hand corner. More and more Lurkers, more and more Defilers coming in too. Consume being researched, because why would you make Defilers without Consume? It's just going to be... Okay, hang on. I was going to say, we might just go bio this whole time. We have seen Flash do that in ZVTs, but more often than not, around this time we start seeing a mech transition, if not even earlier, in some TVZs. And in fact, we are getting upgrades for vehicles, ion thrusters, and vultures in play here. They're much better against Lurkers than bio is. So these Marines, I think this is it. I think this is it for bio that's being produced by Fantasy. He's making 5 more, I get that. But just based on the upgrade pathing and the number of vultures that are on the field here, it feels like we're going to see a mech transition sooner rather than later, which might be good considering the amount of Lurkers that we have here on the field. Spider Mines jumping around too, and Spider Mines versus Lurkers. I mean, honestly, Spider Mines versus everything is really good. Dark Swarm up. Defiler getting inside the Dark Swarm, and that means you can't come deal with this. Oh, this is a beautiful setup right now. Really good stuff. A drop going to snipe down the Spire at the natural base of HyuK, though. These Lurkers are pretty much unstoppable right now, which is not good, but, ooh, the Spire does get saved by Zerglings cruising on over to shut that thing down with their +1 ground carapace. If they can get... Oh, the Irradiates, though. I was going to say, the Irradiates are getting to them. This one being irradiated? Yes, it is. Is there enough on that Irradiate to kill it? Drop at the 3rd base now. These are the Spire guys, too. They're still alive. Dark Swarm is wearing off here. Defiler does not have enough for another one. And the Marines focused on the Lurkers, recognizing the threat that is. Dropship cruising on out of there. Everybody dying. Back home, including those medevacs. And the drops, okay. The drops didn't really do huge amounts of damage to HyuK, but did force him back at the very least. Drones happily mining here. It is 108 to 80 supply in favor of Fantasy. He's still, there we go. He got his 3rd base just now, doing a bit of a mainer transfer up to the 3rd. It's got blue everywhere here. Honestly, some plague on this buy would be just disgusting. And yeah, additional factories on the way, additional vehicle weapons on the way here too. So it's a bit of a late transition into all of those tanks that we see with Mech, but not too crazy here. Science Vessel's leading the way because not much can shoot up, as it turns out. They're going to irradiate the Defilers, I think is the plan here. Or they would if they had enough energy to do so, and they don't. So they're going to have to pull back a little bit. You're not going to deal with this base at all. Fourth base is happily up and running. Gas is the priority for HyuK right now. Going for additional upgrades for his melee, which indicates we're probably going to see some Ultralisks at some point. These Zerglings, though, nice Plague. Nice Plague. The Fire Bats. I was going to say handling the Lings well, but when you are plagued, it doesn't matter how well you handle what you're attacking. You die so fast. That was, again, a major victory for HyuK. He's now up 93 to 91 supply. Nope, Fantasy ties it up by making 3 tanks at a time and vultures here. So he's definitely getting into that mech. And we will see how HyuK responds to it. Third base, maybe a fifth base would be good for HyuK. Up here at the 12 o'clock position. Seems like something he should try. There are Scourge over here. Are they going to explode on barracks? The answer is 2 of them will. Oh, the other ones will too. Oh, he pulled them away at the last second so they wouldn't get wasted. And then they got wasted. So barracks is not on fire, and as a result, just continuing to scout here. No real concerns for it. Those Scourge were just lost units there from HyuK. I know they exploded on the enemy, but they were wastes. Can tell you that much. Charon boosters on the way. Goliaths coming in here too. More and more factories in production. Vultures picking off a Defiler. Never mind. Nice Dark Swarm, keeping him alive with very, very few HP. Getting on into the main line, the main mineral line here with those vultures, picking off some of these drones, but Lings responding quite nicely. Vulture harass into the natural base, doing pretty well here again against the Lings sent to try to handle them. This is a bunch of Scourge. What are they so worried about? I assume maybe dropships, but I think we're done with those guys. Pretty darn sure we are done with dropships right now. Dang, Fantasy expanding up on the top left-hand side, actually out-expanding the Zerg right now, somehow and some way, and just using all the barracks he made in the early stages of the game to scout with. That's fantastic. So tank count getting a little bit scary here. 2, 4, 6, 7 in this group. Moving up with their Vulture support. Spider-Mine's getting tossed down everywhere. Gamete Meiosis? Nope, Metasynaptic Node. So we're not going to see Queens, at the very least, not for the next couple of minutes here. HyuK has other plans for this mech, and it's going to be a lot of Hydralisks and Zerglings and Defilers for Dark Swarm, which, not bad. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is just disgustingly, sickeningly impressive Dark Swarms with Lings and Hydras on top of everything, and not running into Spider Mines over and over again. It just takes a lot of control to handle this. A lot of control to play, too. The mech is not that easy. But every Terran player seems to know how to do it into the late game, so, I mean, it can't be that hard to learn, right? Right. Cannot be. Zerglings just cruising into Spider Mines and tanks. Clearing out those Spider Mine fields with their little bodies. Hydras are sitting at +2 armor. No attack upgrades at all. I don't think they have range either. Are they working on the range, though? That's missile attacks. Oof. Maybe. Oh, that does look like range there. All right, so range is done. Speed is done. They don't have attack upgrades, but they're working on them. And they're just kind of picking off these barracks and these science vessels that are giving so much scouting information to the Terran player. I keep thinking this is a drop. Is this a drop? Nope, just a regular old Overlord. Thank you for asking, though. Overlord's in great positions. Again, a lot of yellow everywhere, a lot of blue everywhere. We're left versus right now. Nobody's been able to take the center base or the 6 o'clock or 12 o'clock positions. They just are a little bit too exposed for these players. Oh, it is 6 queens, though. It is 6 queens, though. Vulture's getting into the natural base and the main base. There's really not much to stop this. This is such a problem for HyuK. You cannot lose these drones at this stage of the game, man. You cannot afford to replace them. Man, where is the defense here? There are some Zerglings and Hydras, and they would do pretty well, but you gotta be there to shut it down. Proximity matters here. 9, 10. How many queens are we going to have? Remember how I said we weren't going to see queens at least for a little bit? Well, it's been a little bit, and it's definitely going to be queens here. More queens. Holy smokes. More and more queens here. And you have to imagine that Fantasy knows it's coming, right? He's been scanning. I've been hearing the comm stat sweeps pretty consistently here. 167 to 147 supply. Fantasy has a lead. He is just slowly pushing on in. Again, this is what the Goliaths are for. The Goliaths are here to pick queens out of the sky and protect their tanks. And how many tanks how many tanks can even get spawn broodlinged here? It is 1 spawn broodling per queen. They don't have the energy capacity to go for 2. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio, which means you need at least 1 queen per tank, which is a lot of tanks right now. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, like 20 or so. Feels like at least 20 tanks that are cruising up right now. Do you have enough queens to take down 20 siege tanks with +2 attack? They're sniping down your spire. Hope you don't need that for anything. That one gamete, that one's gamete meiosis. So he's going for energy for queens now. It seems a little bit late. But yeah, this is going to come down to, can the queens spawn broodling on enough of these tanks that the hiders and lings can come in and clean the rest of it up? Patience. I like the patience here from HyuK. He is not moving in until the queens are ready to go. Where are they even? Where are you hiding your queens, friend? Down here on the right side. Some of them are here. Well, most of them are down on the further right. Okay. Fantasy, incredibly patient. It's just like, you know what? I think we're good. Is he pulling back? What on earth made him pull back there? He has taken the 12 o'clock position, by the way. He's not afraid of it. This middle section has been sown with spider mines. Tanks shutting down that gas income at the natural base because they can shoot across this whole thing, especially with the barracks spotting it there. 4 more tanks in production here. Goliath count seems like enough to handle these queens. I've seen it before. +2 attack is done on those dudes. As I mentioned previously, where is Fantasy? Fantasy, you're going for it, man. He's making 5 more queens. This is by far the most queens I've seen a Zerg player make. At least in, well, ever. And especially in response to this mech. So here goes nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do we get the 5th? We get the 5th there. But the queens are getting picked off. They're getting irradiated. 1 irradiate is enough to kill a queen. So 5 tanks go down. The next wave is moving in. How many tanks are remaining in this position? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Another 20 tanks here. Scourger trying to pick off the science vessels, but no. You are not allowed. That was a decent hit there. Decent wave. Took down 5 tanks. Didn't lose any queens in the process. This might just be the patient method that you have to use here. Coming back in with another group of queens. You don't come in all at once, maybe? This is too many tanks. This is just too many tanks to... I feel like I've seen this story before. It's a nice plague on a couple of those tanks. The queens are cruising on in now. They're not even really doing... I guess the initial ones didn't have enough energy to spawn broodlings. Some of them did come in later. Hiders and Lings, Dark Swarm is present, but only 1 cloud is here. The Hiders need to hide inside this Dark Swarm as much as they can. The Irradiates are insanely good. And that's it. Your good game. Queens do not beat Mech. That's it. Fantasy's like, I'm not really worried about this. I'll just keep making 1,000,000 tanks at a time, 4 at a time here. 9 kills, 6 kills, 4 kills, 5 kills, 6 kills. 5 kills on these tanks. They're sharing their kills very, very well. But yeah, man, patience from both players there, really. I mean, HyuK could have moved in with all of his queens when he had them, but he went in 4 or 5 at a time. But there are just too many tanks. There were too many tanks. Tanks are cheaper than queens. Tanks can continue to fire even after the queens are out of energy. It's not enough. It's not enough is what it's not here. So the early aggression by HyuK was shut down quite nicely by Fantasy, and Fantasy managed to make it happen with just expanding a whole bunch, moving into Mech here at about the 14-minute mark, and then just pushing slowly with Goliath support, Spider Mines, tanks, and whatnot. I mean, we've seen this game before, right? This is just over and over again. It is Zerg trying to handle this and failing with queens. 529 units produced by HyuK. That's a lot of Zerg, guys. That is a lot of Zerg here. Killed 380 by Fantasy. There was still a lot of Zerg left, you guys, but HyuK saw the writing on the wall. He had nothing to handle those tanks at all. And then resources at the end here. I mean, HyuK did fine for himself economically. He mined more gas by about 1,000. He mined about the same number of minerals by about 1,000, and then spent about 2,000 more than Fantasy did, but it's just the cost effectiveness of Mech versus the not cost effectiveness of Zerg players. So GG indeed. Terran player gets the win again in a late game TVZ where he goes a million tanks. And we've seen Zerg players do this, and they have won before. Just takes a lot of Dark Swarm, Hydralisks, incredible perfect placement, out macroing, denying bases, drops. I mean, it's hard to do, but Queens sure seem like they're not the answer. All right, that's going to be it from me. This has been Falcon Paladin coming at you with yet another edition of StarCraft Brood War Remastered. Go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe if you like what you saw and what you heard today. You can also catch me on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, and Twitch, all at /Falcon Paladin. And until next time, as always, thank you so much for watching, and you take care of yourself.